working with databases. The APIs, they are actually, the first API we defined, it was the SSDT, the SQL Server Data Tool. It's not unique, but it is one of the very famous APIs that we may refer to secure an environment. An environment is a database-based project. This is what we mean by an environment. So briefly, actually, the SSDT is an API that has a long list of features and tools that we are going to utilize. If you have, well, no worries. Later on you answer it. Noel, the question actually, even though you can answer it later, don't worry. It's still available and we keep it available. جاوبوه بعدين ماشي إشكال. Good. So this SSDT gives us actually, I said, a very rich experience based on the tooling libraries that he is actually provided to us. Those libraries, they are responsible to give us predefined procedures, functions, predefined design and tools to facilitate the work, no more, no less. Yes, they are actually to give us an easy work through, but they come with its complexity. They come with the way of use we have to respect and we have to follow. We have to obey in order to guarantee the security. Otherwise, we'll actually cause breaches and data vulnerability. We cause vulnerabilities, means access points, non-controlled access points. The SSDT actually, SQL Server Data Tool, it comes with an enhancement to the SQL, which is unique querying tool that we can utilize to interrogate a database. The SQL, the SQL, structured query language. The Transact SQL, the T-SQL, is the enhancement that we can go for to englobe, to build a body from which we may pass list of queries or list of responses, either from the client to the server or vice versa from the server to the client. Transact SQL, it's a mechanism via which it's a sort of scripting language, yes, but we can utilize to write SQL differently to ensure and assure both the security of the past queries or retrieved responses. Because remember, information assurance is one of the guarantees that we have to guarantee to talk about digital security. Information assurance is one of the very pillars that we have to guarantee. Pillars in what? In the digital security field. So if you are not guaranteeing, if a system does not guarantee information assurance, so there is a break here. There is a breach. There is a fault. There is a failure that we have to cover. Remember that. So the challenges, they are a very clear point via which we see that this T-SQL would actually push us to be very specific, be very narrowed, and be very skilled. Otherwise, we will fail. So we are enhancing the SQL to cover the weaknesses and to enhance security when using the SQL. But because of the challenges, the T-SQL will not succeed unless we guarantee and we obey to the rules and regulations of implementation. Any questions, please? Any requests?
Mister, can you please again explain?
Yeah.
Please.
So actually, because of the importance of this unit number one, the talk about the architectural approach to secure a database, the definition of the SSDT and what this SSDT brings to us is important to you, that you have to recognize it well in order to understand the full, the remaining units of this course. To secure a database, we are talking about the database security. This is our speech. This is our concern. At the end of the day, the full course is tackling the database security. Okay, we are starting with the unit number one, which is explaining all the features or all the specificities of the things that SQL Server Data Tool, SSDT, SSDT, SQL Server Data Tool, SSDT, which is an API, it's an interface, it's an application, it's an IDE, integrated development environment, that we use to connect to an SQL Server instance. This SSDT would help us to communicate with an SQL Server database, and we do whatever we want. We pass queries, we retrieve responses, we do whatever we want securely. Securely. It is not the purpose to connect and to retrieve data or to pass queries. No, but to do so, but securely. So we can communicate with other scenarios with the SQL Server, but without talking about the security scenario. To talk about secured communication with the SQL Server, there are mechanisms we have to, there are scenarios, there are approaches we have to go after. Amongst of them, the remote access. So the SSDT is one of the tools that we can use to connect remotely to an SQL Server. The SQL Server is في مكان والSSDT is in another place. And we use the SSDT to connect to the SQL Server, to insert data to the tables, to retrieve data from the tables, to create a new table, to create a new database. We do whatever we want. All is done remotely. So the database management system, the DBMS, is physically segregated, it's eliminated, it's away from our workspace. We are connected to it remotely using an API. Amongst of the APIs here, actually the API we are tackling is the SSDT. Good. This SSDT, it brings to us a rich experience. It's a list of tooling that we are going to utilize. We are going to have the benefit of. Those tools, they are all the .NET tools, because all is Microsoft only. SQL Server is Microsoft, SSDT is Microsoft, and the .NET framework is also Microsoft. So we are from the Microsoft environment only, and within the Microsoft environment only, those tooling, let's say functionalities, they are actually a list of tools responsible to help us achieve the use and the implementation and the adoption and the insertion of functions without writing any single word. You just drag and drop, you just select, you just click, that's it. You get the function done. So those tools here, they are actually responsible for making the thing easy, true. But at the same time, we are not talking about how to do the function here. We are not defining how to create a project. No, we are talking about how to isolate, how to englobe a function to make it actually be covered and not exposed to non-authorized parties. Those tools, they would hide script how it is done. For us, yes, maybe, but in all cases they would facilitate to generate a body from which or within which we will pass our queries, or within which we will retrieve responses from the server side. Is it clear? Is exactly this idea only that the tools would help us to generate bodies that has a start and end, begin and end. In between, we will pass a list of queries, or in between, we will retrieve list of responses from the server. Is it clear?
Yes, clear, Mr.
That's great. That's great. So those tools that they would help us to build bodies, build blocks of code that has a start and end, they are under the title of T-SQL. They are transact SQL statements. Transact SQL bodies or blocks of code, or blocks of, let's say, bodies, blocks of script. They might be small, they might be big, but whatever. Each has its own purpose. That's good. So now we know that. Now we know, we have the knowledge that the SSDT helps us to remotely connect to an SQL server. So we segregate the SQL server, the DBMS from the API. So this is the first security approach. This is the first security view. The second is that within the SSDT, we may actually build a transact SQL, and this transact SQL mainly we can summarize uh, it is the tool, or it is the mechanism that provides us a list of tools to build bodies, to pass list of queries or retrieve list of responses. Very good. To do so, it's not as easy as we are just presenting it right now. No, still it is actually a little bit more complex. Why? Because there are challenges. There are difficulties that we have to face. There are issues we have to cover in order to succeed in doing so. So to secure the transaction or whatever a request to pass to the server, there are issues we have to tackle. Otherwise, the transaction itself would fail. So the thing is getting a little bit complex. What does mean challenges? No, there is no what does mean. Challenges, they are issues, they are obstacles. Amongst of those obstacles, the dependencies. I believe that you know what is a referential integrity. By the way, let me ask you a question, please. Steve في classroom نهاد. نهاد, you are in the classroom actually, I believe. نهاد, you are in the classroom. وصلك الايميل انت. نهاد خلفان سعيد. واصلك وانفايتد you are. استلمتي الايميل انت. ابحثي
حاجة
على
مستر
الايميل.
ظهر معي.
لا تحصليه في الايميل. ابحثي بالايميل. ابحثي باسم INFS 311 في الايميل. ابحثي باسم INFS 311 يظهر لك الايميل. رابط تضغطي عليه بس. I was about to ask you a question actually. Who did not take the database Ghadir? Ghadir, the same thing actually. Let me ask you the question first and then come back. Who did not take the database course, please? Who did not take the course database management system, DBMS, INFS 302? Who did not take this course? Great. So all of you took the course. Ghadir also وصلك الاستدعاء. غدير مصبح ربيع مخفي الباقي موجودة. واصلك الرابط. نفس الكلام غدير. The same thing. search في الانبوكس مالك كلمة INFS 311. You'll find the link. Just click it. That's it. You'll be inside the room. مزون نفس الكلام. مزون are you
دكتور
here?
اكسكيوز مي،
يا tell.
انا ما يوصل للايميل تبع اللينك.
ايميل تبع اللينك. اي لينك تتكلم عليه. ايميل انت موجوده في كلاس روم وموجوده ومفعل الرابط مالك.
انا اقصد مع جوجل ميت.
لا جوجل ميت فقط تدخلي على تدخلي في الوقت المحدد. تدخلي على الموديل. يو فايند لينك. ما في دعوه. ما ارسل دعوه. فقط ما رسلت دعوه.
اوكي
مش ما
دكتور.
ارسل. انا اليوم ما رسلت. ولكن اذا رسلت بيوصلك اكيد. لكن اليوم انت لست مخطئه. انت صحيحه. ليش؟ لاني انا لم ارسل. لان الموديل ما يرسل اساسا. مش ما ارسل. انا اقوم بانشائه في الموديل. الموديل ما يرسل. اذا سويتها في كلاس روم بيرسل. Let's come back. So since you took the classroom, actually, you finished the course database management system DBMS, so you know 100% what does mean dependencies. The referential integrity is one of the issues, the challenges that to build the transact SQL has to be actually tackling this issue. Why? Because we might update an entity inside the database that has referential integrity with an external entity. So this is the problem. We cannot do that unless we update the external entity in advance. So the referential integrity and the dependencies DBMS INFS 302 أو الرمز القديم 310 I think على ما أذكر. INFS 310 الرمز القديم. الرمز الحديث هو 302 والقديم أعتقد 310. So you are in trouble actually. You have to have took this course. هنا سنتكلم فيما بعد المادة هذه لما أخذ المادة هذه 302. I don't know why you took this course because you have to have this course in advance. سنتكلم فيما بعد. لحظة خلينا نخلص الحصة وسنتكلم إن شاء الله. So the challenges, regardless what are they are, actually here they are, these list of example only, they are 5 points. They are listed in our book, but you have to remember that those challenges, they cause the T-SQL to fail. In the sense of the purpose behind here is not to deliver a transaction and stop there. No, to secure a transaction. So we are providing a guaranteed request, or we are retrieving a guaranteed response from the server side to the client, or vice versa from the client to the server side. If it is a request, so from client to server. If it is a response, so from server to client. To believe that it is trusted information assurance is set and so on, the challenges can cause this to break. As the example we took, the dependencies actually can lead us to fail updating an entity. The dependencies might cause us a query to fail retrieving data, since dependencies are there, dependencies and referential integrities. Runtime errors, we cannot expect in advance. All the runtime errors depends on the environment that the client is using. There are runtime errors that can happen, so those are other challenges. The runtime errors can cause requests to fail and responses to fail also at the same time. And the runtime errors, they are not things that we can expect from the beginning, because clients in plural, they might utilize deprecated operating systems, deprecated environments, operating systems. Those deprecated environments, they may cause actually functions not to run, tools not to run, and this cause a late error detection problem, which is an exception to happen. And even the exception might fail to run, because an exception is something to control. Regardless, so the T-SQL is an enhancement. The T-SQL can help us to build bodies to pass queries or to retrieve responses. So this is a sort of isolation of list of queries, isolation of list of responses. Yet, because of the challenges, the T-SQL role may fail. The challenges, they does not cause the failure of the T-SQL, but they may cause, if they are not tackled by the developer, they may cause the T-SQL role to fail, the T-SQL purpose to fail. Means they can help in, they can not help in preventing the inferences that might happen on top of the list of between the list of the queries to pass or the requests to pass. Still in the same context only, the SSDT actually would help us actually by giving a very rich experience with working with the graphical interface. So we're going to use the benefit of the .NET framework. So it is all, not all, but a major part of the work would be actually graphic. So we are going to use the .NET tools to build up a procedure, to build up a view, to build up a function, a method, a procedure, whatever you need to do. Major part of the work would be or can be graphically set without writing scripts. Major part. This is the benefit number one. Then actually an SSDT can help us get connected to all the database and all the entities inside a remote database management system, DBMS. The context of the context of okay. We took the example last class actually when we actually because we defined the database that we can utilize to build a project. There are three types, which are the offline, the online, and the on-premise. The offline actually it is the one that does not have any connectivity to the external world. The on-premise is the one that locally installed and locally utilized only, the local one, and the online is the one that to be utilized for the public use with the external environment. Because of this only, I come back one slide. Because of this only, there are scenarios via which big projects like the EduWave, for example, have to talk about the updates differently. In the sense of we have running a project that utilizes the database, and this project actually presents an update after 1 week or after 1 month or after 1 year or whatever. The DB administrator, the project administrator, is making an update to the database architecture, database data, or whatever. There is an update. This update has to happen from either the local or the offline, either from the local or the offline, to be passed to the online one. This pass, this update, this context of update, actually it would cause us to think of either we bring the database to enough, or the project to enough time, means we have to stop the system from running for 1 hour or 1 day or 1 week, or depends on the size of the work to do. Yes, we stop the work. We tell the clients, hey, no, there is no work today. We stop the system. There is no EduWave. You cannot register. You can start. Just you have to wait. This is enough time. This is the first solution, which is not feasible. This causes bad reputation to the business. This is not a behavior to do. This causes non-loyalty. The second one, which is the best option, is that to update the database using a specific way while it is running without off time, without causing the database to stop. This way, actually it is to be done using something called change script. And this change script actually it would be actually done to either create a new object or to alter an architecture of an entity inside the database, or both of them, This change script would be will be working on comparing old versions and the new versions of the available database or the available data store, to compare the old and the new one. If there are updates whether to by additions or by let's say the diminution, means there is actually deletion, there are things has been deleted, or additions, there are things have been added. Mainly we talk about entities, we don't talk about values, because the values, they are going to be updated from the system itself in lifetime. We talk about the architecture of the entities or the objects inside the database. If the objects or the entities, they are changed, so the change script will take care and will update that. And because of this only, we are talking about that the change script and the update would be only doing a create or an alter. It's not going to do an insert or a select. No. Databases, there are three types: the offline, the local, and the online. The offline actually is the one that we utilize, which is deprived from all external work. We use it for its own purpose only. We use the database for its own purpose only. We create a database to use the database only. The off it's in one environment only. The local or the on-premise database, the local or the on-premise database, it is to be utilized in local device only, but it can be actually used to connect to a project, but also in local. We are not going to use the database for its purpose only. We can use it for its purpose and for delivering services to a project implemented locally, local device. We are having a project that uses a database. That database is a local database. The third, which is an online one, is something given to public and can be utilized by public people. Okay, those three databases, are they having any relationship? Yes, absolutely, because we can move from a local database to an online database, or we can move from an offline database to an online database. Right, so how to do so? Like we said earlier, there is an update to happen. We need a change script to do so, and this change script will use what? Will use a copy of an old version of the let's say offline database compared with an online one. If there is an update, there will be, if there are changes, there will be an update to the online one. The copies of the old and the old copy and the let's say the current copy of the database to compare, they are snapshots. They are snapshots. They are backpack file, data tier application component package. Data tier application component package. Those are copies that they have a representation of all objects inside the database. Objects, huh? We said objects. We did not say data. Objects means the tables, the views, the procedures, the functions, user-defined functions, all the objects inside the database. There is a copy. It would be saved as a file. Two copies in time frame different, they would be compared. If there is a difference, so there have to be an update to the online one. Difference, either by addition or deletion. If there is something added or something deleted, so there have to be an update to the online copy. Data backpack, or let's say snapshot. Backpack is the extension of the file, and the snapshot is the file to be utilized itself. The snapshot is the version of, is the copy of the database. As we said earlier, the a local DB, it's one database that has to be generated in a local environment. It can be utilized to enhance the development of a project in local also. The same computer, for example, we can generate a database using a DBMS, and this same database can be connected to a project and built and help the project to be built in the same local device. So this we can describe. It can describe a local database. A database to be a local database. The offline database, no, it is a database to be generated for its own purpose only. So we need a database for a database. So it is the purpose only to push us to create a database. So for a database, we generate a database. This is an offline one. We are not linking it to projects, and we are not linking it to be utilized for public use or whatever, even the same local environment. It is deprived from, it is an offline, it is deprived from all connections. Okay. In the same context actually, and to have the benefit of the SSDT, the SSDT actually would help us in enhancing the work with the databases, but in a secure way. Remember that we are not learning to use the SSDT. We are not describing the SSDT as per its purpose, but we are presenting the features to raise up the security level when working with databases. So in a connected mode, the SSDT actually gives us a way to secure or to raise up the security level when working with databases. Yes, it is like that. So this is a mode, the connected mode. It is a mode that the SSDT can, through which can guarantee that the security is elevated. In the sense of there will be no interferences, there will be no interruption when passing queries or when retrieving responses. Direct connection, direct binding from client to the entity, and this direct, let's say, path or circuit would raise up the security somehow. As per an example, it would eliminate all inferences. The SQL Server actually gives us actually another interface. It's another API that we can utilize to work with the database entities, with the SQL Server entities, and in a connected mode also. It is similar, very similar to the SSDT in connected mode, which is nominated SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. It's another API. It's another API that we can utilize to connect to database, and it is actually in a connected mode. It is already from the SQL Server environment only, that we can utilize to do all the tasks we were talking about, but from a different interface. SSMS, SSMS. Now we are talking SQL Server Management Studio. Refer to the book, you'll find all the definitions regarding that. When working in connected mode, SSDT, actually remember that let me come back to the slide where I talked about the yes, the snapshot and the chain script. Yeah, when working actually with this SSDT, remember that everything has to be actually done where the SSDT is installed, the same layer, actually same let's say environment. The SSDT actually creates a copy for his own purpose. He will not interrupt the work. He will buffer a copy. He will buffer a copy, which is said to be a buffered copy, from the real, let's say, working database, DB, for his own purpose, from which he's going to generate a snapshot, from which he's going to generate an analysis or whatever. So the SSDT, he creates a copy from the remote database, the real one, and he stores it in local memory to utilize it. To utilize for what? For all the tasks is actually in time for his work. To generate a snapshot from this buffered copy. To seek for a comparison and analysis from this buffered copy only, and so on. Using the SSDT, actually, we can create entities inside the database graphically. So without writing any single word, I said. The majority of the work can be done in a graphical mode by clicking and dragging and selecting. Actually, just one last note before we pass. Here, actually, this is actually common sense understanding here. The use of the snapshots, and to use these snapshots, whether to create them or to utilize them for generation of a chain script. There are schemes that you have to respect, or the SSDT has to respect the schemas available inside the database, because inside the database we might find different schemas, and inside the schemas we might find objects. From the objects, they may be actually entities like tables, procedures, user-defined functions, and so on. So this architectural view has to be respected by the SSDT when dealing with all the works he's trying to do, whether he's generating a snapshot or making an update whatever. He has to respect the architectural view. Any questions, please? Any requests? This is the designer view via which we can, is very famous. It's like the Visual Studio interface, graphical interface, but it is actually from the SSDT to help us generate an entity inside the SQL server. If you hear your name, please just say yes. If you hear your name, just say yes. I'll stop the record and I'll give you a chance to ask.